Welcome to this week's edition of the Weekly Roundup, brought to you by the Conversation Project. I'm Jay Clifton Payne, and what I have for you today are 12 stories that we've actually talked about already all week in our daily show called Things You Might Have Heard. Every weekday morning, we give you a roundup of previous news stories, the Mondays for the weekend and the previous day going forward. These are 12 of the stories that sort of hit different for me this week, sort of stories that I lagged onto that you obviously deem as conversational from the front end. So we're going to get into those pretty quickly. No particular order as they are presented, but they do happen, because it's history, for the week between Friday, September the 6th and Friday the 13th, 2024. Now, as we said, we are wrapping this up for the week ending, as I just said, September 14th, 2024. We're recording this on a Saturday morning as the week is wrapped up, preparing for the Sunday and the next day going forward. Any questions, comments, concerns you have, email us at the conversation inbox at gmail.com, and visit our website, thisisconversationproject.com, for more details on how we get things done around here. No particular order as presented, even not in day order, not in the order of their actual engagement, but we'll explain engagement and stuff and how the stories came to be in a bit. Now, this one is one that's really important. It's not getting the play it ought to, but enough engagement to make sure we're talking about it this week. And we've been talking about it essentially for a week. This was a Monday story, by the way, for this one. Congress is dealing with a government shutdown looming to happen somewhere around the 28th and the 30th of September. So happy birthday to me and the nation, I guess. So, yeah. Yes, there's an election coming in November. That's less than 60 days or so. That's a big, important thing. But guess what? The government kind of has to run until we get there. We kind of have to get to November and get through everything going on. And apparently, as always, the continuing resolution that we have currently will run out around the end of September. And so what will happen? There's a back and forth fight. The Republicans will say we're not balancing budget, yada, 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 and whatever. But eventually they all vote for it because a shutdown gets blamed on by Republicans because they do that and people don't get paid. People remember that. An election year, you have to remember that. But the Republicans have a trick up their sleeve. Not that Democrats are necessarily off the hook on this stuff because they just want to spend money like drunken sailors. But there is something called the SAVES Act. It's listed as what they call a poison pill. A poison pill is something you put in, just like in old-time movies where people chomp down on their teeth and all of a sudden they eat cyanide and it kills them. It's a pill that will kill a bill right off the bat. That once, if you take it, you put it in there because you want it not to go through. This SAVES Act is putting forth new legislation that will go into effect in November, although we're passing this legislation in September, that will require states to run extra security to make sure that people that are voting are actual citizens of the United States. Now, if you remember your civics, you must be a citizen of the United States and vote in any elections, vote in anything, especially in presidential or higher level elections. So this is redundant, and it's also impossible to really put into play within less than 60 days. So what are we doing about this? We're going to put it and see how the bill goes along and see if it gets killed, and whether Mike Johnson, the Republican Speaker of the House, will find a way to get with Democrats to make this thing work and fund the government till November and beyond, maybe. Because that's what happened last time. Whatever they put in there in legislation was there to kill it. It didn't work, and Mike Johnson worked with Democrats to make it happen, which made Trump mad at him. You may remember that. Here's story number 2. Now, the overarching, now as you get from the weekly roundup, we give you more sort of the ambiance of the story and not so much the big story parts, because it's really the story happened. We talked about it and what was the aftermath of talking going forward. The aftermath of story number 2 listed today: Simpsons memes go viral after Trump claims that dogs are being eaten in Springfield, is a little bit extra bonkers than Trump saying that dogs are being eaten in Springfield. A viral Facebook thingamabobber, which was somebody's sister's, mother's, cousin's, uncle's niece, told me, and I just put something on Facebook, turned into a something. Now, in Springfield, Ohio, there was reports of people eating geese that were like wild geese. And the real kicker was the story of a woman who said she saw some Haitian woman eating a dog. A cat. Let's get the story as straight as possible. Or a cat went missing, and the reports were some Haitian woman ate it. There are no police reports of eating it. There's no reports in the city. The governor of Ohio, who's a Republican, is like, why are you people doing this? Nobody's eating cats here in Ohio. Yes, we have a whole lot of Haitian refugees here, but they're not eating pets. It also brought up a lot of talk about voodoo and Haitians and the fact that they sacrifice pets, which may be what's fueling this thing here, because it's actually a theme on racism, not so much pet safety. Oh, what's the point of this? Donald Trump said this in the middle of the debate we had with Kamala Harris, which was one of the things that brought in one of the meme-worthy looks of Kamala Harris. I think it was this one. I think it was that one. Or it might have been this one. I can't remember. There's so many looks that turned into memes on that thing. But the memes that spiraled from The Simpsons, because Springfield is a metaphor for Springfields everywhere and just your town being kind of crappy. And the pets of the Simpsons owned by the Simpson clan, being both Santa's Little Helper, the dog, and Snowball 2, became a big deal because you got the memes were so beautiful for this one. Although the talk behind it is badass crazy. Speaking of badass crazy, let's talk about story number 3 and all the actual informational memes and all the actual informational comments that I got about this one. Because as I learned this week, it has been cleared. It is official. I am a Zionist. Why am I a Zionist? Well, we'll get to that in the comments about the story number 3. But the headline is Candace Owens blames Zionists after she's suspended from YouTube over Kanye West's interview. Now, in the clip, in the review we did for this one, we basically read a bit of a blurb. It's that YouTube has banned Candace Owens because of this interview. They pulled the interview and pulled her and basically blocked her channel. She put her channel out or put this interview out at other networks, other places, so you can see it out there if you want to look for it. But she's blaming the Zionists for having YouTube block what's going on. That's basically what we said. Candace Owens is on YouTube. She had a video with her interviewing Kanye West. It's been blocked. She's blaming Zionists. Then I threw in the fact that, I used to, air quotes, love Candace Owens. I used to have this running joke about her just needing a hug and wanted to figure out why she was so angry. But then I just got tired of my shtick on her shtick and just was basically, she's a grifter. She's no good. Why are we even talking about her? Go away, Candace Owens. Sing my Go Away, Candace Owens song. And of course, you folks in the comments seem to love Candace Owens. Seem to love her. And it's amazing how I'm not getting a lot of, because there's been plenty of people talking about Candace Owens, and on their channels, we see lots of comments saying, yeah, she's kind of nutty. All I'm getting is, because you're a Zionist, you're out for Candace too. Candace is telling the truth. Candace is brave enough to do stuff. There was one comment that said Candace basically came onto the scene by talking about racism against her being black, and is now talking about other racism, essentially how Jews are bad. And a lot of it is how Jews are bad because it's Candace and other sort of memes in those stands. So I've been pegged as Zionist. I'm trying to block out Candace Owens. I'm just talking about Candace because literally she is a conversational topic that does not get every big network a lot of tingly feelings to put her on there because she's a hot topic. She's a lot like that Laura Loomer thing right now, except she's actually hanging out with Trump, so she is newsworthy. Candace is hanging out with, Andrew Tate and Kanye West, who are deplorable, but not newsworthy. Oh, by the way, if you want to comment about anything we do, comment in the sections here inside of the videos. You can do that anytime you feel like it. You can also email me at theconversationinbox@gmail.com. and find me wherever. We take all comments and considerations seriously. We read all of the comments, even the nasty ones, just to see the gauge what's going on, because this is the Conversation Project. And if you want to call me out for being a Zionist or hating Candace Owens, that's what conversations are about. They're not as one-sided as they can be in these things. But here's a one-sided argument, because it's one-sided based on whether you want to pay your money or not. The parties in charge don't really matter because money is involved. It is going up, and you will either pay or not pay. DirecTV tells its customers it's going to hike its prices next month. Next month would be October, because of the blackout issues with Disney networks. That's being ESPN and ABC specifically, mostly because it's football season and people are missing sports. Oh, by the way, the ABC network, ABC News, hosted the debate, even though they shared it with everybody else so people could see it on their channels. It was still people who wanted to see it on the source, ABC, couldn't get it because ABC Networks and ESPN, which of course has Monday Night Football and lots of big football games, college football as well, all the college football sports things, push bars all the way, can't get it. So now the actual fix for this is the fact that this weekend, I believe late yesterday, there's a deal to make this thing happen. So maybe as of right now, there is college football on television for ABC and Disney Network stuff going forward. So the deal has been done. But the question and the story we went with, because there was a lot of back and forth to go with, was the fact that your DirecTV subscription is going up. Now, there are no more satellite dishes out there, so there's not that. It's all basically you pay for your internet and then you get something on top of it. It is what it is. And the lie, that is, they give you Sunday Ticket because they no longer own it. It's owned by YouTube TV. Yes, you'd still buy it from another streaming network. So what's the point? That's kind of there. DirecTV not exactly winning the streaming wars right now, but still alive. And as far as we can tell, back in the saddle with the Disney networks. Speaking of back in the saddle, man, I am hot on the transitions today. I need extra points for that one. Guess what we're not going to talk about, or specifically being a great movie. We're going to talk about the movie. We're not going to talk about it being in theaters because I think it's going straight to streaming. And we're going to talk about how people aren't so happy with what they're seeing. Critics are ripping Kevin Costner's Rise in Chapter 2. Reviews are coming out after it gets a debut in Venice. And the storytelling is known to be or stated as being uneven. And people are appreciating the sweeping visuals and the Western themes. The West people love Westerns and the themes, even though it's a lot like the realness of the West version versus what we think. It's like watching a Pride and Prejudice and thinking that's Victorian England when it actually is a really dirty, nasty place and no one loved anybody. And the plague. Horizon is more or less the dirty, ugly place in film version, but the panoramas are beautiful. Horizon 1 got ripped for being a bit too gritty, a bit too real, and the women being a bit too rugged and nasty, to be honest. It was also really long. All the movies are really long, and the thought that you were going to see all 4 movies in a theater in succession because that's the way Kevin Costner wanted to be didn't happen when one went to streaming fairly quickly because of talk about it. People did watch it, and it got better engagement from people who could watch it at home, but it still wasn't the thing people thought it was going to be. And 2 is going to be essentially the same thing. Great looking, great visuals, story a bit muddled, and if there's 4 of them, there's a whole lot to get to. 1, 2, and most of 3 apparently are almost done. Essentially, it takes time to get these things done. Whether 4 will be a thing, whether they'll give up on this after 3, or whether they'll give up this now, we'll see. But the themes that Kevin Costner wanted to put out to, one of the reasons why he left Yellowstone to put his money and his time into something that he loved, this thing here is having issues. The story we have at number 6 is something that we actually covered. Well, we covered all the stories. We covered this one extra in the weekly column I do for syndication. Now, whether you see it in your newspaper near you, probably not, because I'm very small on the syndication route, but it's out there. It's for free. I'm not getting paid for syndication, but I did I think this came out to be about 1,100 word article or review, a column on Tyreek Hill and the police officer who did not love him. In fact, hated him so much. Hate is, being thrown out there in a sensitive level. But this did not like the incident so much that got themselves into some hot water and some national talk. It's an interesting talk, but it's a talk, and the talk specifically, that it's one of those things that we really wish we didn't have to do. Officer Danny Torres of the Miami Police Department pulled Tyreek Hill over feet away from driving into work last Sunday on Sunday football at a game at Miami Dolphins Stadium. It was over speeding. It turned into an altercation based on showing driver's license and rolling up windows and showing respect. In the process, Torres pulled Hill out of his car and put him on the ground. People saw it. It was bystander things. His agent, Drew Rosenhaus, drove up and talked about it there. One teammate drove by and saw what was happening, and he got held back for a little bit till that got cleared up. What looked like Tyreek Hill being completely innocent and being stopped for something minor and being harassed for being black and rich turned into Tyreek Hill being stopped for something minor and being harassed, not for just being black and rich, but also being kind of a jerk. Obviously, Torres, extremely jerky and extremely has extreme issues, as he had some, let's say, a history of issues in his stops and in his treatment of people being pulled over. Now, this is one where there are no winners. We will see whether Tyreek Hill gets his wish and whether Torres is kicked off the police department. We'll see if Torres gets back onto the beat here in Miami or has to go someplace else in hiding. Maybe he'll go to Springfield. But this is something that brought up a lot of talk about the talk. And if you're not someone watching the video who is, and if you not watching the video, I wave my hand over my face to show that I have a darker skin complexion, i.e. I am black, African-American, of a descent that is not white. There is a thing that was a big thing a few years back going through, as an issue that's now being brought back to light for people who don't understand it, called the talk. And the talk is essentially the talk of what to do if you get pulled over by police. Do not escalate. Hands at 2 and 4 o'clock, or 10 and 2 o'clock. Pull out your license, hand it to them, show your hands at all times. Be very mindful, be very respectful, even if you're not being respected, because when things escalate, we get 2020 and a lot of 2020s, and we don't need that again. We do need a lot more Uncle Shannon, but we don't need him pressing his phone buttons when he shouldn't be pressing his phone buttons and other buttons are ready to be pressed. Shannon Sharpe had to talk this week about his viral Instagram sex tape, which wasn't actually a sex tape, but it was him starting to get sexy. He knew the sexy talk, and then pressing a button on his phone somewhere in his pocket or something, and us hearing and seeing a little bit of Uncle Shannon doing his moves, and not the ones he was famous for on the football field, some other moves. He is embarrassed. He's really embarrassed about this, and now he has admitted, now he knows how Instagram Live works and how not to use it, and probably when not to use it. Definitely not in private moments going forward. This is not going to be the most embarrassing thing for Shannon Sharpe ever. I'm sure something out there, I'm sure he said something and lost a fight to Skip Bayless or something at some point in time, and that's something that people are holding over his head. But he does know that his phone is an open mic that is in his pocket all the time. And us in media know, if you see a microphone in a room, watch what you say. It doesn't matter if it's not plugged up or not, because you never know these days. If you see it, step away and watch what you say. Look for blinking lights to be on to see what you can say, what you can do. But remember, a mic in the room is probably always hot, even when you don't think it is, and especially when you don't think it is. So watch what you say. Even you, Uncle Shannon. Great news on the royal family front this week. Princess Kate has completed her chemotherapy, and she's going back to work essentially now. She's doing a light schedule, and she's, oddly enough, doing a lot of working from home, if you can get that. A lot of on Zoom calls, I guess. I don't know. But she's doing a lot more outreach, a lot more talking, and doing more stuff, and she'll be out in the public eye more often now that she's finished her cancer treatments. And we know this in a very showy, very overly produced video done with her and her kids, and just stuff in wheat fields and in forests and wearing flowy dresses and things like that, because that's how the royals communicate now these days. It's really interesting how they do this stuff now, because without Queen Elizabeth to stand in the balcony and do the traditional waves, why are they standing out in balconies and doing waves? Why aren't they doing social media? Why aren't they popping up in the streets? Why isn't Prince Charles hugging random people in the streets? Well, they're not randoms. They're actual New Zealand sports people, but giving people hugs and singing to folks. Why aren't they doing that? Well, they are. They are now. The real point of the story is the change in how the royals are engaging with people that are real people. And if they would have made this change, I don't know, a few years back, maybe they'd have 2 extra royals to keep roiling around with them instead of the 2 that are here in the States that apparently wearing out their welcome, as far as I can tell. We're happy for Kate, happy for her enduring what she did, that she was able to endure it and come past this. My wife is a cancer survivor, so trust me, it's a bitch. It's terrible. It's just disgustingly horrible dealing with this disease, no matter what type of cancer. My father is a cancer survivor. It's terrible. It's a bitch. It's terrible. It's horrible. It's something you don't want to deal with. Guess what? It's here. So if someone's going through it, give them all the love and all the support you can. because in most cases, caught early, and then sometimes even if it's aggressive, can be fought, can be cured, can be handled, not necessarily cured, and you can be cancer free. Kate showing one more warrior who's beat this terrible disease, and so we're so proud and glad for that. Yeah, Happy Gilmore 2 is coming. It is coming. This may not be the most engaging, most important, most earth-shattering story of the week, but guess what? Y'all want some Shooter McGavin. Y'all want some Shooter McGavin, and you also want some Virginia Burnett, and that is what's happening. The 1996 movie is getting its second edition, coming to Netflix, because that's where all of Sandler's movies are going these days. Good for Netflix, because he's actually putting out fairly good content, and he's always did good content. People kind of goof on Sandler and his early Happy Madison stuff because it was Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison, the same character being going forward. Here we're literally getting the same character from 30 years ago moving forward, doing whatever he is going forward. Other than playing golf, we don't know what's in the movie. Oh, we do know that Bad Bunny's in the movie. That's why he's in this picture here. Bad Bunny's in the movie. Not sure what he's doing in it. We've lost Bob Barker, so we can't have him come back. Maybe they'll have a callback of some sorts. Maybe AI will create a Bob Barker and bring him in there going forward. You know that Shooter McGavin and Virginia Burnett, which is, of course, Christopher McDonald and Julie Bowen, are back in this sequel. We'll see what happens coming forward. Not sure exactly how this is going to play out, but we know the court cases is flowing through, and it's almost a done deal, as a plea deal came through for Justin Timberlake for his drunken driving case back a few months ago. The details of the agreement have not been fully discussed, but it's reported that the deal offers a lesser sentence, lesser offenses for the plea. He basically said, being drunk in this situation was a bad deal. It wasn't very smart. I should not have done it, which is what you do. You be a culpa and you move forward. What's moving forward mean for J. Tim? Don't really know. But we will see coming forward as we'll deal with this as public eye for celebrities. What they do in public is an issue, and how they react to what's going forward. Will there be any backlash? He's had bigger transgressions, in my opinion, and there's been no backlash. In fact, he's eventually got off scot-free. In an alternate universe, J.C. Chazes is the one with all this fame, and he's probably have a better person in the background than J. Timberlake is. I don't know him. He seems to be a nice enough guy going forward. Very generous in things he does for people and entertaining, obviously. But transgressions do have consequences, and we're seeing the consequence of this particular transgression, the drunken driving case from months back. As I relayed this in the quick video we did on the story. Imagine you are dealing with depression. Imagine you are bad. September is also Suicide Awareness Month, so we talk about this a lot in various cases and various things across our platforms, all the more better media platforms. But imagine you are literally on the ledge. You're on the other side of a bridge, standing over it, looking at ending things. And you look over the other side, and walking towards you is Jon Bon Jovi. And you're like, that's Jon Bon Jovi. And Jon Bon Jovi comes over and says, hey, how you doing? I'm Jon Bon Jovi. You want to come over here and talk for a little minute? Yeah, come on, just come over here. This is literally play-by-play of what's happened last week. Jon Bon Jovi is filming a music video in Nashville on a bridge. And on the other side of the bridge, they see a woman on the other side of the ledge, the side where the bar is that keeps you from going over, where she may be going over. Himself and a production assistant walk over to her and talk to her for a moment and embrace her and take her back to the other side of the bridge. It's a great story. It's an awesome story. On my Instagram feed for the Conversation Project, you guys loved it. It was all over the place. It brought numbers up to where it hadn't been in a while because it's a great story. On YouTube, the clip version of the story, which may be 2 minutes as I read it, probably a little less than 2 minutes, has a advisory that this one may trigger you because it deals with thoughts of suicide. So it only has about 15 views. I've got 1,200 views in the story with Candace Owens and me being called the Zionist at least 70 times, but not much for YouTube on this one. YouTube, you're missing out. This is a wonderful story. This is a lovely story. This is beautiful. Why are we not letting people do this? This is also one of the least offensive stories I did all week because essentially Jon Bon Jovi walked over this to the ledge of a bridge and talked somebody over back to the bridge and saved someone's life. I don't know. But Jon Bon Jovi getting high praise along with his whole crew for doing this from the police department and officials in Nashville, which it should be. As we said, this is suicide prevention. This week we had Suicide Prevention Day and Suicide Awareness Month is all month here. So because of that, we're going to take a quick moment to pause from the news and remind you that the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, it can be called or text from your cell phone anytime you want to, anytime you need to. It's there 24 hours a day. English and Spanish speakers are there to talk you down whatever bridge ledges you may be on metaphysically or metaphorically, physically, whatever. Wherever you feel like you're not doing well and that depression is overtaking you to the other side, send a text, give a call, 988. That's that simple. Also, 988lifeline.org is available online as well, 24 hours a day. Someone is there to talk to you. Look for local resources. Look for someone to talk to, because that choice in that moment may seem like the only choice you have because it's the only thing that's going to alleviate the pain that you're suffering. But it also is a pain and suffering that the rest of us have to face when you're gone. And finally, story at number 12 for this week. 30,000 Boeing's workers are poised for potential strike, which was posted last weekend. Come Monday, when we actually did the story, the update was the strike was on. The strike happened. They voted for the strike. The majority of the voters voted for the strike on Sunday. And then Monday, the strike was on. They rejected a deal that was going to be 25% wage hike over about 4 years because they wanted 40%. They also wanted some stagnant wage issues to be fixed, the cuts of pensions to be reversed, because as they say, the CEO and the executives, they're not losing as much money as we are in this process. They're still seeing record gains and they're getting bonuses that are a whole lot more by percentage. And by percentage and by real numbers, we're not making it. This has caught production of Boeing airliners, including the 737, and is causing issues that are rippling around the world for what right now, so far, as I can tell, this Saturday, and this Sunday, no relief what's going on. Still talking, still scuttlebutting back and forth. No relief for the actual people who are trying to negotiate a deal. We'll see how this one plays out. A lot going on, including, of course, the Starliner, Boeing's spacecraft that came down empty a few days ago because they were afraid the astronauts could not fly back into it. Boeing has a lot of issues, and Boeing needs to fix a lot of these issues. Fix number one, getting its workers back to work so they can fix those issues. 12 stories presented to you that were 12 of the top stories that you saw engaging over the week. And how do we know they're engaging? Well, we know because you tell us they're engaging. We will get to the real process in a bit. But one way you can know if a story is engaging or not towards your actual point of view is by going to Ground News. And we ask you to do that with our affiliate link so that we get a small commission when you subscribe to the actual program. This is a conversationproject.com/ground news is the link for our affiliate, where you can get news for $1 a month to under $10 a month at various different tiers for Ground News. Now, you can get it for free, and what you get is a basic overview of news stories out there as they're being presented by various news sources. So, example here is in this picture here, Kamala Biden endorses Vice President Kamala Harris. The clip is all kind of bunsy, but this was the story where Biden endorsed Kamala Harris when he passed the torch to her in the middle of running for president. You all remember that from a few weeks back. And this gives you a little view on how it's being presented. It's presented from a center view mostly, where there's this many left-leaning objects going, this many right-leaning objects going this forward. This tells you, ground news tells you exactly who's covering stories and what. So if a story gets more of a right-leaning, a conservative view, it'll have a lot of red in the bar. If it's getting a left-leaning view, it'll get a lot of blue in the bar. If neither side are really covering it, a whole lot of white center going for it, because if they're being covered, it's there. And if it's not being covered, they'll let you know. Things of all bent, not just political, but news stories, they'll tell you where the bias is coming from. We love Ground News. Ground News is one of the aggregators we check in to make sure that we know who's covering things and kind of see what's going on. And we love particularly their blind spot feature, because if you're a person who seems to watch Republican-styled news or watch more Democratic-style news, more in the liberal bent versus the conservative bent, a big Fox News, Newsmax watcher versus MSNBC and CNN, you will be getting the same stuff in various veins. So you want to see what you're missing, what stories are being mostly covered by the red and mostly covered by the blue in those cases, the blind spots, things that aren't being covered in your networks or that you can see going forward, or are being covered more on the other networks that you're wondering why they're giving them much play. Check it out at Ground News. As we said, news and these great sources and great other features for less than $10 a month. Check it out at thisistheconversationproject.com/ground news. This is theconversationproject.com/ground news. You go there, you get your subscription. We get a small commission from that buy. All of our affiliates, all of our sponsors are affiliate sponsors. So if you go to our sponsors page at our website, you will see many other sponsors. Click those links, buy from them, we get a commission. Ground News is one that we're glad that we found them. We're glad we sought them out. Many news sources and podcasts and videos like this look for Ground News for their source of news. So it is something we get into. We're glad that they allowed us to be a partner with them, and we want you to get the news from them as well. The Conversation Project lives online at thisisconversationproject.com. We'll go deeper into the feeds in a moment, but go to our website and check out what you're missing from us. We have links for sponsorships, links for partnerships pages, links for past episodes so you can see how these things has progressed, links for the stories you missed. So if you don't see the video, you can go there and just get straight links to our newsletter so we can send those straight to you every single weekday morning and Saturday mornings for the weekly wrap up, and other great fun stuff as well. So find out more about the Conversation Project at thisistheconversationproject.com. Now we'll switch over to the thought process on our partners. Go to our partnerships page or go straight to my page at Patreon or at Buy Me a Coffee, buymeacoffee.com, buymeacoffee.com/jclevelandpayne, and become one of our partners. Partners include right now the Cup of Coffee vein is Harold Braxton, Colby Green, and Eldon Kidd, along with the Spare Change vein being Joy Winters. These are people who are contributing directly to us on a monthly basis. Spare Change is $1. Cup of Coffee is $5. It doesn't seem like much, but $16 a month helps pay off some of the bills. And so if you want to contribute to the Conversation Project and be someone who's really in on the news and get a deeper connection to me, if you will, go to our partnerships page and you can find more information there. There's also some one-time donation hits there you can do as well. And you can go to buymeacoffee.com/jclevelandpayne for the subscription base, the partner base, if you will, for partnerships, because we need the partnership help. Now, we are about to really wrap up this roundup. So I'll remind you one more time, our website, this is theconversationproject.com. That's the home for everything about the Conversation Project. And our email address, conversationinbox@gmail.com. You can comment, complain, you can give me the whole 9 yards at the email address, and we'll have conversations as best possible there. You can also follow us on our feeds. Those are links on Facebook and X. We also have Threads as well, but Threads doesn't do well with the stats. So Threads is sort of a just way to get you into engaging things and seeing things where if you're into Threads. Threads not as popular as it was and popped in there because it's not so great. But Facebook is still alive, and X, people still go there. So go to facebook.com/thisistheconversationproject and x.com/th_conversation and see more of what's going on. You see the links to the news stories you post every 50 minutes or so on those feeds and you engage in them. You like them, you love them, you make little scrunchy faces, clicks on emojis, you share them, you comment on them, and the higher engagement we get, the more we talk about these stories. For the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we take those 3 days and we'll give you 10 stories from top 30 of those full weekend's worth of stories. Tuesday through Friday, we'll give you 8 stories in the things you might not have heard show, I should say, from the top half, 15 stories of 30 stories about in a day. It's that simple. You help us pick the stories for the week. And from there, I pick some of those stories that seem to catch my attention for the weekend edition here. Rounding things up, if you will. So that's where we are. This is our second week of this basic format of the weekly roundup for the week ending September 14th, 2024. I am Jay Cleveland Payne, and I'm glad to have you along for the ride. Remember that this life is great. Your life may not seem so good, but as we give the extra attention for this being Suicide Awareness Month, life itself is always great and the best option going forward. So when things don't feel so well in this life, remember that life itself is precious and great. Love you so much. Mean it. What stories will be big stories throughout the week, and what of those stories will be the ones we'll talk about in the roundup? And you can have some say in the roundup as well. Send me some email comments or comments on things like this one is really big. You might want to think about it for Sunday. We'll do that. We'll take that into consideration. In the meantime, we're out for this one. Join us again, coming to you live, streaming live to tape, come Monday with things you might not have heard.